Hey, Kurt, go ahead and jump
Hey,
right back
Russ.
in where we left
Yeah.
off.
How are you?
I'm pretty good, pretty good, buddy.
Anyhow, what we wanted to talk about this session is we wanted to talk about those soldiers who arrested him in the garden, on that last day, on that fateful, Wednesday. Well, actually, it was Tuesday evening, Wednesday on the Jewish calendar, early Wednesday morning, but it's actually, it's Wednesday. Excuse me, Tuesday night around midnight. So on their Tuesday night. So but it fell into Wednesday is what I'm trying to say.
Okay,
But it was everybody thinks it was Roman soldiers that came and got him, at the in the garden.
right.
So
The
you've seen
temple
that,
guard. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Everybody makes it out to be the Romans were
Yeah,
doing
it was
it.
a temple guard, and here's the proof on that. So if anybody's looking for proof out there, it's in Matthew. It's at the end of Matthew. Did you want to read it, or you want me to read it, or do
No,
you
no.
want to
Go
read it?
ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so it says that, what's let me set it up. So the Pharisees are coming to Pilate, and they said, "Look, we've read the scriptures. They said after 3 days he would rise again. And if he does, if that happens, and somebody steals his body away and kind of fakes this thing, it's going to so this calamity be worse than the first calamity. And they're
Right,
admitting this is a calamity, by the way." So anyhow, so they're trying to talk Pilate into a to setting guards, Roman guards, and sealing the tomb. So and you've seen that where they sealed it up, ropes around it, and stamps on it, and all that. So
right,
there's nowhere it says that. In fact, what it does say, though, here's what it does say. It said, so they say, "Sir, we remember that the deceiver said, that's Yeshua. That's who they're calling him, the deceiver. While he was yet alive, after 3 days I will rise again. Command therefore that the sepulchre be made sure until the third day, lest his disciples come by night and steal him away, and say unto the people, He is risen from the dead. So the last error shall be worse than the first. Pilate said unto them, You have a watch. And they did. It was called the temple guard. That's what they call it. And when he's asking what a watch is, troops that could watch, soldiers that can watch, the grave or the sepulcher. He
right,
says, "You have a watch. Go your way. Make it as sure as you can." So he's saying, "Make it as sure as you can." To them. So they went and made the sepulcher sure, sealing the stone and setting a watch. Okay, so they're the ones, the Pharisees set their own temple guard around around the sepulcher of Christ.
right,
So they were the ones that came to arrest Yeshua in the garden. In fact, when they come for him, he says, "Who do you seek?" And he says, yeah, and they say Yeshua, and Yeshua says to them, "I am He, Yahuwah," and they fell backward. They fell on their backs, bam, right on their backs. And then, of course, then you have the incident where Peter cuts off the ear of Malchus, the head of the
right.
captain of the temple guard. So those weren't Roman soldiers either. So you
No,
see those Roman soldiers in the movies, you see them in your church plays. It wasn't Roman soldiers, temple guard.
no, no.
And here's the beauty of that. And here's the irony of it. So you have the temple guard, at the sepulcher, right?
Right.
So who is the temple of God? Yeshua himself. So basically the message is there is you have the temple guard rightly guarding the temple.
Amen.
Yeshua is the temple. And they're
Amen.
guarding the temple just like they should. So they're set watch over their own temple, Yeshua.
Right,
And they're admitting
right.
that he is their temple
I
by
agree.
doing that.
I
God,
agree.
God kind of mocks them in a way. So
Yeah,
anyhow, I
one
just
of
wanted
those
to.
things. Yeah,
So the soldiers. I mean, they got this idea. They all fell asleep. Of course, it's later. These same temple guard. They go back. They have to report the bad news. They go where do they go? They don't go to Pilate. They go to the high priest, and they tell the high priest, "Hey, these guys, this Yeshua has resurrected. Yeah, and his temple's empty." And of course, they bribed these temple guards, and they tell them, "We'll give you money. Don't let this out that." let the story go out that his followers came and stole his body away during the night, because we don't want to give any credibility to the story that he resurrected from the grave. And so that's what they did. So that's the story. So it was not the Roman soldiers, it was the temple guard itself, which gives it
That's
more credibility. It gives the story credibility.
right. That's a great point. You couldn't have bribed a Roman soldier. The pain and suffering brought
Right.
after that. That's a great point. Great point.
Plus,
Okay.
it was the Pharisees and the temple guard that had more to lose than the Romans did. They're the ones that had egg on their face, because they're the ones that enticed, the Romans to kill him in the first place, to kill Yeshua.
I agree.
So
I agree.
anyway, they're trying to hide this idea, the prophecy came true. The 3-day prophecy came about. Just like he said, he was resurrected.
Right. 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 Yeah. To to another chaotic folly, huh? Yeah. Very interesting. Okay. So we'll
So,
move.
any, so anyway, that's my story on that one. So if anybody's got any questions or comments on it, I'd love to hear it, because this has been something we've discussed for years and years, and still you see the movies, and still you see the, Fox Nation special on, Yeshua, and they got Roman soldiers. The only thing the Romans did was they were involved in the crucifixion. That's the only thing they did, and in the scourging, of course, they
Scourging.
scourged him.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
other than that, they really didn't have any involvement after they scourged them. And the burial was up to the burial, and because that was, Joseph of Arimathea and Nicodemus said, put him in the tomb. And
Right.
it was a rich man's tomb. And I don't know if anybody's ever been to Israel, but they have what they call the garden tomb there. And it's pretty, I mean, those stones were huge. It would take, I don't know how many men to roll that thing back. I'd say a half a dozen men at least, to roll that stone back. And they're set on an angle. So they rolled downhill, not, to open it back up, you got to push it uphill. It would have
Right.
taken. So I don't know, when the women came to the tomb, they were probably going to have the temple guard help them open that tomb up, But when they got there, Sunday morning, early before the sun came up, that stone was rolled back according to the scriptures.
Right. Right.
So,
Okay.
hey,
We'll do the we'll roll on to the next one here in a second about what the women did observe when they got to the tomb. Okay. Great.
all right,
All right.
all
All right.
right,
Shalom. Shalom.
shalom. All right.